Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult video 212, Occult Trappings on the Side, talking about like anything external to the self basically as part of a ritualistic or spiritual practice. Do I believe that such things are strictly necessary within a magical framework? The answer is both yes and no. It really depends because, I'm more of a cosmopolitan occultist. That is, I study every path. I'm interested in all religious and spiritual paths. I'm interested in seeing where they overlap. I'm interested in studying more about all of them, including ones that I happen to already disagree with, like, for mystic Christianity or something. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in the Christian God, but I'm still interested in studying it. What I would say is in some of these practices, if you intend to actually utilize them, there will be external implements, a wand, wear a robe, have your hair a certain way. So even invocation, technically speaking, is an externalization. It's creating something external. The sound is not part of your physical core. It's something else, something otherworldly and purely spiritual. I've often thought it'd be funny, like, what if someone gets their tongue cut out, but they're part of a religion that says they have to chant or pray a certain thing? That could be a little bit of a problem. Or you can do, what if you're allergic to the communion wafers? You can't take communion. I guess you have to go to hell if you're a practicing Catholic. I'm just kind of joking there. What I would say is in my own practice, I don't really use physical implements external to myself. Because I'm such a cosmopolitan occultist, I'm interested in studying every path, including those that I don't necessarily agree with, especially within a pagan framework. And so as part of that, like, other than reading books and editing through them often, other than that, there's really not a whole lot of external material needed for that sort of practice. The idea that the average occultist has shelves and shelves of skulls and wands and stuff and wanders around under the moonlight naked and stuff, that's a misconstruing. That's really a Hollywood version that's based on King James demonology and the burning times more than anything else. It's really a superstitious and completely fallacious Christian look at folk rituals, at quackery within medicine at the time and things of that nature. It has nothing to do with authentic witchcraft for the most part, other than some of the herbal lore. That part they kind of got right. Although the idea that people fly when they anoint themselves with henbane is wrong. They might feel like they're flying around randomly, but they're actually just stumbling through the woods hallucinating for several hours. By the way, you should not use deliriants, true hallucinogens, that is. My own thought, though, is that occult trappings can be positive, and I think I've talked about sort of the aesthetics of witchcraft before. It's like, for the average person, if they want to get into that witchy mood or something, they probably are surrounded with like dried herbs and black cats and cauldrons and stuff. It gives them a little bit of spookiness. It changes their mental state and makes them more receptive, perhaps, to the spiritual, especially the darker side thereof, the more spooky side. That being said, is it necessary? No, because they could also like don a white robe and walk next to the pyramids and do Egyptian stuff, and it'd be just as authentic, technically speaking. And that's the other side. If you're a purist, if you think there is an authentic way to do things and it's the way people did it centuries or 1,000 years ago or something, there's more of a likelihood of external implements. And part of that is literally nothing more. If you read some of the opinions even from contemporary eras, especially within Rome, you'll see that a lot of the trappings were nothing more than hucksters selling stuff, like basically like, buy this amulet to ward off evil. Wear this ring to raise the dead, and stuff like that, and it never actually worked. It became part of a commercialized version of paganism at those times. We've got to realize that sometimes many centuries hence, we're looking at essentially the canonically commercialized version. If we're looking at any of the great empires and their spiritual forms, we're looking at a commercialization thereof. And I noted this even like with Hinduism. Authentic Hinduism 100 years ago is vastly different from what you see if you're watching any of like the Telugu news or something. You're going to see ads for little Hanuman statues and stuff like that. Probably made in China and shit. It's a little bit different now, isn't it? But if 1,000 years from now, if the religion was no longer really excellent, it was just going based on contemporary materials from now, they would think that that was a legitimate part of the practice. Well, they would make these little clay statues, and they would, keep them in their homes to, bring money or stuff. Well, maybe not in the more ancient traditions. They probably, did something a little bit different than that, a little bit less commercialized, definitely. But then again, if you look at ancient times, you will find some authentic practices related to that. Like, for instance, the idea of Asclepius. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation. The idea that you would go to the healing center dedicated to this particular being, and in Rome and Greece and stuff, they used to bring like clay or wooden versions of like body parts. Like if your hand was injured, you'd have a little clay hand made, and you would leave it there as a, sort of an offering. The idea was that it would heal, and you'd go like usually ritualistically bathe, maybe take some herbs or something, or mineral concoctions at the time as well, or you'd go see the Sibyl in some way. You'd go see the oracle and get your fortune told maybe the next day. It could be a legitimate part of the practice. It's an externalization, really. Even the idea of having a temple or a place specifically where you practice is an externalization of spirituality. It's different from a mindfulness sort of thing where it's entirely internal. And I think there's something to be said for both. Having sort of spiritual things in mind in a general sense, internalizing your spiritual beliefs and not like proselytizing, I would say, is a good thing. And then there's something to be said for planting a little sacred grove and erecting an altar or something like that. Yeah, it can be exciting and fun. It's something you're leaving behind. It's probably there 100 years after you're dead, so, there's nothing wrong with that. That's about all. Peace out.